Did you ever account for the things I was good at? The Amateur was directed by James Hawes, who's done projects like One Life as well as some television shows. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. This is based on a novel by Robert Littell and was adapted to the silver screen by Ken Nolan What, who did Black Hawk Down and Transformers The Last Night, among other projects, and was also written by Gary Spinelli, who did American Made, American Made, American Made, American Made. You're welcome, wrestling fans, if you get that. That earworm has dug its way into your brain and it ain't ever gonna goddamn leave. This centers around Charlie Heller, played by Rami Malek, who has certainly had quite the varied career. He, at times, is really, really good, and at times is really, really in strange projects that don't play to his strengths. That being said, The Amateur has gotten quite the marketing campaign, and Heller, he's known by Heller or Charlie, so let's just call him CH. No, let's actually call him Heller because, oh, Heller! No, I don't know why the hell I decided to say it like that. He's a tech-savvy individual who loses his wife and then goes for revenge. That's pretty much the non-spoiler review that I can give. And also, if you have not seen a trailer for this, well, then you haven't been spoiled by the vast majority of anything entertaining in this movie. And if you have not seen the trailer, if you somehow managed to avoid it, try to avoid it until this hits theaters later in the week. I was able to see a special screen. I drove about 20 miles south just to see what this was all about, because I saw this trailer for months, for goddamn months, pretty much from back in November. So I have seen this trailer quite a bit. Now, honestly, I kind of was torn because I'm like, okay, Rami Malek, I don't mind him. Lawrence Fishburne's in it. Holt McCallany, who was Fritz Von Erich in the Iron Claw. Check out my review of that if you want to see exactly what I thought of that fiasco of a story, even though the actors did really good. You have Rachel Brosnahan, who is in the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and also is, she's in the new Superman, and I'm very, very excited for that. So, you do also have Julianne Nicholson, who is terrific, fucking magnificent. Janet Planet and Dream Scenario are two recent movies where I thought she did a great goddamn job. And I'm really happy to see her getting to be in some big budget projects like this. Lawrence Fishburne, I will say that as far as somebody that has been pretty much acting for like 30 plus years, I mean, it's actually remarkable the amount of films he's been in and the varied characters that he's played. And he kind of has a certain, like, you know, niche that he plays in films like this, where it's like he ends up kind of almost being the most entertaining part of the movie. But for those that have not seen the trailer, that's pretty much your, basis on this. It's basically Rami Malek going for the killers of his wife and using tech savvy and ingenuity and a whole lot of cliches and a whole lot of logic loopholes. And okay, I'm not going to mix words. I fucking hated The Amateur. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. I hated this. I did not have high expectations for it, and this movie didn't even meet that. This movie started to lose me about 30 to 40 minutes in. This is an hour, or, well, it's basically just under 2 hours if you go opening credits to closing credits. By the way, there are no post-credit scenes, mid-credit scenes. So once the lights come on, you can go. And believe me, you're going to want to go. You're probably going to wish that you had not watched The Amateur. And The Amateur is appropriate. This kind of reminds me of the rhythm section. Except the rhythm section at least had Blake Lively, Sterling K. Brown, and had, well, actually, no, everybody seemed like they were on a bunch of Quaaludes in this. Lawrence Fishburne's about the only one that understands the assignment and tries to add some entertainment. Rami Malek almost seems to be sleepwalking through his role. They give Julianne nothing to do. Holt is super goddamn generic as an FBI director. And it's funny, for everything about, this being, well, FBI tech savvy, whatever the hell it is, for everything that's all tech savvy, whatever, people end up getting outsmarted by simplistic things, despite the fact that there are about 2,000, million cameras all over the building and outside the building and whatever. And being a globe-trotting movie about a tech-savvy guy that wants to go for revenge sounds like a good idea. Sounds like something entertaining, maybe for Netflix, but not for a theatrical release. Like, this is almost like sleep-inducingly awful. This is excruciatingly boring. And a film that I wish I hadn't goddamn seen, because it has nothing. It has absolutely nothing to it. Any characters that are introduced have no depth to them. Rami Malek barely has any depth to him. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne, again, at least understands the entertainment side of this, and he seems to have come from a completely different movie, but there's also logic loopholes with his character. They get revealed a little bit later on, and there are parts of this, I guess, that could be considered entertaining, but if you have seen the trailer, unfortunately, you have seen sans one scene that, and so hilariously awful that I couldn't take the movie seriously after that, even though I wasn't necessarily taking it seriously. You get to see, if you've seen the trailer, this is like, for those of you that haven't, this is a spoiler part, but if you saw the trailer, you saw the pool scene, and you saw a couple other things, and the thing about this is, I would have been able, to buy into this and been willing to buy this if there was any depth to this at all, but this is just hacked out. This feels so goddamn safe. No, danger at all. And while, potentially leading up to a franchise, God forbid if they try to do a sequel to this, The Amateur 2. I think I saw this movie on Cinemax After Dark Boogaloo. More on that later. Always delete your search history. I cannot imagine that this film will end up being a roaring success. Maybe on streaming it will. But that being said, it is really, really dead. Like, just dead on arrival almost. And you can't shock this thing back to life. Character arcs are really bad. Like, everything just ends. It really is a lot like the rhythm section, just maybe with a bigger budget. And without a great song at the end credits. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? This movie nearly put me to sleep several times. And half the audience almost seemed like they went to sleep. And it was a pretty full theater. That being said, it's in theaters this weekend. If you want to check it out, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, here's basically what you get. You get a brief introduction with Heller and Sarah. And then you get some flashback stuff. At one point, we see that Sarah had bought Heller a plane. I guess because he likes planes. There was a point where he was putting some stuff together in a garage. And then he went to see her off for a trip to London. A trip, unfortunately, that ended with her being taken hostage and killed. And naturally, yes, you would want revenge on the people that killed your wife, and there's a central idea there that could have worked. Unfortunately, this didn't, because none of the villains are, worth rooting against. Heller isn't worth rooting for. Yes, you want to set stuff up, and you want to have it where, okay, he has to earn this, he has to do this stuff, but it just barely does this. It kind of limps along. He's trying to basically get Director Moore and his partner to get this going. Director Julianne Nicholson, who I know she had a name. I don't care to commit it to memory. She's kind of wondering what the hell is going on with this. More uncovering with Heller, where he discovers through a source named Inquiline, like inquiry, basically figures out that they're in Istanbul, and turns out that, by the way, it's the widow of the guy that he's been talking to, I guess, for a number of years, or he's been talking to the wife the whole goddamn time, because the guy's been dead since about 2017. This is supposed to be 2024, 2025. Whatever, it's fine. These files were sent by Inquiline that have to do with, very black ops, espionage plots, where Director Moore is having people carry out stuff under the guise of, taking care of bad people or something, I guess. None of this really gets explored, and none of it's really interesting. And Director Moore's a goddamn idiot because he doesn't cover his tracks at all. And also Heller ends up basically doing something, saying that he created a file that would, be released if they didn't train him and give him what he wanted to go and pursue his wife or his wife's killers. So Lawrence Fishburne's Henderson is brought in, and pretty much this is where the movie sparks up barely. I mean, barely. And he's training him. He's going to, stick a gun to his chest. He says, "You can't do what I do no matter how hard I train you." And it turns out that actually Heller's pretty good at making bombs and doing some tech stuff, just not so good with the guns or hand-to-hand combat. And he basically talks about, pulling the trigger up close. You got to make a split-second decision. It's going to be difficult for you to do. You're not a killer, Charlie. But he decided basically to blackmail Holt McCallany's character and get this mission-specific training. But it gets found out that this file is a goof, and it's just not actually legit. But just enough time where he gets passports made and he gets a bunch of money and he's able to go off and do this. By the way, all this happens a lot, I'm making it sound a lot more exciting than it actually is, because this just is, there are points where if they had trimmed 15 minutes off of this, it wouldn't have made it better, but it would have made it shorter. And yes, you have the flashbacks, but you don't get any real sense that him and his wife are actual characters. And he ends up going to London, and then going to France, and then finds out about this one woman, I believe, named Gretchen Frank. And he's trying to find this guy Schiller. Not Harvey Schiller. We are not going back to the WCW days. But he discovers that Gretchen is actually allergic to a certain type of pollen. She does some, medical test stuff. And she was behind some of this stuff, like hatching these parts, even though it's obvious that Director Moore is behind this and hiring these people to do this. But he decided, I'm going to go after the people that killed my wife. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The one good scene, or at least mildly entertaining scene, is when he uses pollen to put it in this, not cryo chamber, but this air chamber. And basically uses her allergies against her to try and get information. Well, then he lets her out to try and figure out what she's saying. She attacks him, and it's hilarious because, mind you, he is in a foreign country. He has snuck into her apartment to find out stuff about this, about her, even takes her gun. So already he's committed several goddamn crimes here, taking a weapon that doesn't belong to you in a foreign country. And I actually didn't think that France allowed guns. Maybe I'm thinking of the UK. If you're French, please let me know what the gun laws are there. And he ends up basically getting in a fight with her. She runs out of this clinic, and he's trying to chase after her in full view. All these cameras, by the way, are seeing him. And all the cameras at this other building, the FBI building, before all this stuff happened. He was able to hack into this printer and print off this stuff and everything, and prove that Director Moore and others had done these terrible things for the blackmail, for the training and stuff like that. But this proves that the training didn't work out all that well. And yes, it's called the amateur. He's not supposed to be perfect, but this lady runs out into the street and gets hit by a van, and I was losing it. I was laughing internally and trying so hard not to laugh out loud. It was so hilarious, and I was like, well, that's it, movie. Can't take you seriously anymore. And then he ends up eventually hooking up, a bit with Inquiline, who I do have to say that actress does the best she can. It's a difficult name. Ciatrona, Balf, something like that. I believe she's Irish, so I'm probably totally butchering it. I do apologize to any Irish people that are watching. But she took over her husband's stuff, as I talked about. Again, I'm making this sound more entertaining than it actually is. And Henderson, meanwhile, is pursuing him, and pursues him while he's tripping on drugs or drinking or whatever, through a couple French raves after what he did. The lady getting hit by the goddamn thing in full view of this whatever part of Paris this is. And then he basically says, you ever count the things I was good at? And he has he set up a bomb in the bathroom and blew it up. And found a way to escape Henderson. More on that in a bit. So we go to this part with the pool, the glass pool, where I don't know how anybody could be in a pool like that. Because one, I hate, swimming anyway. But being in a pool like that, suspended all the way up there, what if something hits it? Yes, it's probably likely, heavy glass, but still, he, created this device that decompressing the glass beneath him. He found a way to do this. Inquiline was helping. whatever her actual name was. I mean, that was her name for the cast. I don't know what her actual name was. Meanwhile, the FBI agent people find out her alias pretty quickly, so he couldn't figure it out too much, but they figured it out quickly. Whatever, again, the amateur. And then they have people descend on her house, and this is after the pools collapse. They get out. Henderson has got beat up by a guy and shot him, but also got shot. So he's just there bleeding out in the laundry room. Director Nicholson has sent people, and now I just want Jack Nicholson to be the director here, even though I don't think he's acted in anything for a while. But she's like, well, let's send some of our own people. Well, then Lawrence Fishburne ends up shooting him. It's a good job there. The pool's done. There are these turkeys outside of Inquilin's house. And Inquiline, whatever. And these turkeys are bearing any alarm. Soldiers come. They manage to barely get out. All the files get deleted off her computer, so that's it. They're racing away in a car. A boat is shooting at them, and then eventually finds them again, even though they're along the coast, and I get it. They can't exactly jut over to another part. They have to get away from this part. They're kind of stuck. But they're like, oh, the boat's gone. Oh, there it is. And then she ends up getting shot. She ends up dying. This is right after, by the way, just before all this happened, before the soldiers invade. She's like, she hasn't been able to sleep. She talks about like, offing herself if anybody comes to get her. Can I sleep next to you? I just need to feel this and everything and stuff like that. So even though he's lost his wife, even though this, and even though she gave him advice, like, this isn't something that you'll want to do. Will this fill your heart or complete you? Help me help you. This movie needed a lot of help. And so she's dead. And meanwhile, he finds like this guy, Billie Eilish. It's not Billie Eilish, but it would have been hilarious. They was supplying missiles to this guy, Harvey Schiller, and I think is his name. And basically the idea is he had an explosive trigger set where everything was going to blow up if he shut the lid or moved away. And he wanted information. Handed him his phone. And basically got to the contacts, and it turns out there's this one place in Russia. I know it's not Primrose, Russia, but I'm going to call it that. Because fuck you, I don't care about Russia right now. And it's this port, and it's where this Harvey Schiller guy is. So, the idea is after that guy blows up, which was another part of the trailer, he runs into an old friend of his that almost seemingly was sent there, a friend that, he ran into earlier, that asked him to look over this sensitive material that led to all this stuff. That guy shows up, and then suddenly, conveniently, Heller is knocked out, and then put on this boat. And then Harvey Schiller is talking to him. I think Harvey Schiller's dead, so I really shouldn't say that, but nevertheless. He's like, well, here I am and stuff like that. And earlier, Heller had taken a look at this boat and everything and looking at where Primrose, Russia is. And that, we could end up getting into some kind of other international waters or some waters where something could happen. Conveniently, the Gulf of Finland is nearby, showing how little I know about geography. And he basically can't pull the trigger, but he brings the guy to his knees. I just wanted you to feel what my wife felt. Oh, and by the way, I've taken over your boat. I've hacked into your boat, and and now we're in Finnish waters. And then they get arrested, and Julianne Nicholson arrests Holt McCallany after conveniently having a dinner with him, where she basically laid the cards out on the table, saying, "I knew and know that you are in on this," and that's it. That's it. Heller is seemingly fine. And Julian Nicholson's like, we can't allow this kind of stuff to basically make us like the enemy. We need to bring them down. We need to bring them down civilly. I guess? This movie is all over the goddamn place. And this review seems like it's all over the places because trying to cobble together this story coherently and conveniently is almost impossible. It's simplistic yet incomprehensible at the same goddamn time. When it loses you, it don't get you back. And I don't want this movie to ever come back. I want somebody to stamp it into the goddamn ground and curb stomp it until it can't even move anymore. It gets an F. It is terrible. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Renthlan. I'll see you soon.